Why are we the only people in this country that are expected to do things without violence?
I didn't mean to kill your son!
What you did.
I did what I was trying to do!
I just want justice. That's all I want. This is your jury. The deciders of your fate. Today, you will be tried for the murder of my son. You scared? Are you afraid?
What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for one of the most anticipated movies for me as far as 2021 goes, American Skin. I remember when I first heard about this movie back in 2019, and that was coming off of Nate Parker taking a hiatus after everything that happened with his previous film, but we're not going to go and dive into that. And when I first heard about it, I said, I wonder what this movie is going to be about, because it has a very interesting title, and sometimes the titles can pull you in, and then of course when you figure out who is involved and everything like that, that will pull you in as well. So when I did a little bit more research, I said, oh, this movie is going to be phenomenal. I loved what he did with Birth of a Nation, and I have a feeling that this movie is going to be just as good, if not better. But I think it was supposed to come out, I think, last year, but due to everything with the pandemic, well, that kind of threw everything off. So instead of having a theatrical release, it had to end up getting released through streaming, which I'm perfectly okay with, and I'm fine with that. And when I found out that with the release date and everything like that, I actually got in contact with Nate Parker via Twitter from a video that I had did about him a couple years prior to that. And y'all know the story. He ended up following me on Twitter. We started to develop a communication with each other and everything like that. I really can't go into details of everything that we talked about, but just know that the lines of communication between myself and Nate Parker is now officially open. And now here we are, finally, to American Skin. Man, what can I say about this movie except this is probably one of the best movies that will come out this year. And I'm speaking that into existence. I know there's going to be other films that's going to come out, and I know it's early on and it's January. And January is considered to be that dump month. But this movie right here was absolutely amazing. And when I say amazing, I literally, tears started forming in my eyes probably within the first 5 minutes of this movie. And that's not something that often happens. I think the last time a movie did that was Fruitvale Station, and that's only because they show a real life clip of what happened with Oscar Grant, and then I keep thinking about what happened with this movie and how it opened up and everything like that. But the opening definitely pulled me in, and I'm gonna try to do this review without giving any spoilers, because yes, I know while it's on streaming, by the time this review goes up, people will have hopefully already seen it, but I don't want to spoil it for those who may not have had the opportunity to see it yet. But basically the movie is about Nate Parker's character, whose name is Link. They call him Link, but his full name is Lincoln Jefferson. He used to be in the military. He lives in California with his 14-year-old son. And I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong, that his son that played the boy who played his son in this movie, I think also played the young Nat Turner in Birth of a Nation. I think somebody did tell me that. If that is indeed true, I think that's excellent and awesome that he actually used the same actor that played him, a younger version of Nat Turner, who of course he played the adult version of later on in that movie, to play his son in this movie. And basically what happens is one night they're driving, they get pulled over, the usual spill with the police pulling black people over, and creating a bias, in this system that we all know as Dub S, as I like to call it. And then his son is recording the interaction that he has with the police while he's being detained, while his dad is being detained, and the cop tells him to put the gun away in a very aggressive manner, and then all of a sudden he shoots the son. I think he shot him like 3 times in the back, and then of course the son ends up dead. Then a year passes by, they come up with the decision from the grand jury, that infamous grand jury, to not convict, or not even, well, not convict, but not even bring any charges against the cop that killed him. So you can't even say convict him because there was never a trial. And I said, we know all of this too well. And then, it just escalates from there, just intensifies from there. One thing I have to say, when it comes to movies like this, I would always prefer that it's written by people that have experienced this, or for people that could experience this. And you can tell that this movie was written by a black man, and it was, because Nate Parker wrote and he directed this movie. Because I noticed in some of the scenes that when they were doing a dialogue, I could almost finish some of what they were saying. Mind you, I never even read the script. I could finish some of the dialogue that was being said in the movie, or anticipate what was about to be said. And that is the kind of writing that I like, that kind of pulls you in. Like, I felt like I was there. I felt pulled in to this film from beginning to end. One of my favorite, before I even get to that, I didn't even know Vanessa Bell Calloway was in this movie. She had a little small part in the movie. I think she played Link's mother. I'm not sure. I think that was his mother. I want to say that was his mother. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me. But like I said, so much stuff happened in this movie. Also, Omari Hart was in this movie. I was curious about who he played. Basically, he was his battle buddy. They were both in the army together. And his character is battling cancer. And, I didn't even see that coming. I didn't even know, that was going to be put into the script. And I was curious about who Amari Hardwick was going to be playing. He was basically his partner in crime. He was just down for whatever. Like, he was ready to go whenever something, did happen. They had Michael Warren in this movie, a legendary actor. He basically played Link's uncle, who was pretty much down for the cause. One thing I liked is that everybody who was in Link's corner was on his side. He didn't have any turncoats, because that could have been easy. And when I think turncoats, I think about when he played Nat Turner. Remember that little boy that turned on them and caused the rebellion to go south? That didn't happen in this movie. He didn't have any turncoats. Everybody who was on his side was on his side. And basically the title American Skin was the name. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but basically you also have this other kid and his friends, and they're basically doing a documentary style film about what happened to this man's son, and they pretty much document the entire thing. What, everything that happens from, the time they first meet him and interview his family, his friends. But the intensity happens, of course, inside of that police precinct when they finally go and confront the cop that killed his son. That entire thing, that entire scene right there was just phenomenal. Like, everything was executed right. The acting was on point. The writing was on point. The directing was on point. I like how they did it kind of documentary style to make it seem like you're seeing it from the view of the person that was recording for the documentary for their project. So it wasn't all technical moves and everything like that. I kind of like that documentary style. At first it kind of annoyed me, but I think for certain movies it works. And for this one, it definitely did. My favorite scene for this entire movie, and I had a few of them, but this one right here, and I think a lot of people will agree with me when they watch it, is in the police scene where the cop is put on trial. And what I liked about that is he put them on trial. He brought in a jury that was not his peers, and they were saying, well, wait a minute, why are you bringing them in? And by the way, the jury was like inmates that were staying in the cells down below, and they was like, wait, why are you bringing them in? Those aren't my peers. And then Link looks back at him and says, well, welcome to my world. And literally, before he even said that, that was what was floating in my mind. Because how many times are they saying that when black people get on trial, you're gonna be judged by a jury of your peers? Then you look at the jury pool and you're like, they don't look like my peers. They don't look like anybody I would hang out with. They don't look like anybody that I know. That's why they got mad at people like Johnny Cochran when he filled the jury pool up with what he did during the OJ trial. That's why they were mad with Judge Olu Stevens when he did the same thing for that black defendant that ended up getting off a couple years ago, and they ended up suspending him for 3 months without pay. They didn't like that. And what I liked about this whole trial setup, and it's something that formulated in my mind while watching the movie, is that the Link character, he basically set it up as if he was the judge. Like, if he was the prosecutor, how he would have set this trial up should this had actually gone to trial. Because we never would have known Sorry about that. We never would have known what the trial would have looked like because there was no trial. So he basically said, okay, this is how I would like the trial to look. This is how it's going to be set up. And one thing I liked about the movie also is that he let the people speak freely, which in a regular courtroom would not happen. Like, he let the jurors speak, he let the people in the audience speak and everything like that, and that would not happen and that would not fly. But by his character doing that, you literally saw or got exposed to how a lot of the cops feel or what they think when they interact with black people on a regular basis. And with how this was written, you can pretty much say or formulate in your head and your mind that that's how many of them think of us in real life. Like, for instance, like when he pulled him over and something, they said it because he was speeding, but they never clocked how fast he was actually going. They just assumed he was speeding. Like, it's almost like they were looking for a reason to go after him and his son that day. Like, they were just looking for a reason to attack and go in the way that they did. And like I said, it has so many moving parts that, like I said, the dialogue in that scene alone was just excellent. It was just amazing. I will say that I was not expecting the movie to end the way that it did. I think some people were saying, when based on comments that I was reading, they were saying, I hope it doesn't end this way. I hope it doesn't end that way. I think only one person, whoever predicted how it would probably end, was probably correct. But I'm not going to spoil the ending for you. But I just wasn't expecting for the movie to end the way that, it did. One thing I will have to say that gave a redeemable quality was the boy who was the director, like who was over the documentary that he was making about Link's son and everything like that. At first, I wasn't really kind of into his character that much because he seemed too much of a fence straddler or something like that. But the scene and the monologue that he had in the interrogation room, not interrogation room, but the the room that they meet in with the jury, to deliberate, the deliberation room. His monologue right there, literally, he gave like the best dissertation out of everybody in the room as to why he believed that the outcome of the verdict should have been what it was. And I literally literally raised my eyebrows when I was listening to him say what he said, because he said a lot of things that many of us would probably say. We may tweak it a little bit, but he was pretty much on point, and that made me feel like he had a character arc. It's almost like he went from being this meek and mild character to someone who is now fully aware of what's going on. And it took for him to actually see what happened there in that police precinct that day for him to, I guess, have his wake-up call or his aha moment. And I think that's what happened with everybody who was in the room with them during the process of this trial. That's why I said I liked how the trial was set up, because it gave you an insight of what the trial would or should look like, but of course often never happens. And you got to really think to yourself, whenever they don't have these grand juries, imagine if they did have these grand juries, well, not have the grand juries, but if they actually went to trial. The reason why a lot of times they don't have those trials is because they know there's a very strong chance that those cops that they don't even put on trial would probably be found guilty, which means there's probably a strong case that could be built there for them to actually go to jail. Why do you think with Derek Chauvin and the ones who was responsible for killing George Floyd, why do you think they keep doing all this extracurricular stuff to try to get them off or get lesser charges? It's because they know they have a weak case. Now, the McMichaels, although not cops, but used to be, Greg McMichael, look at all the stuff that they're doing right now, saying don't call Ahmaud Arbery a victim. Don't put pictures of them up there of him with family and friends. Just use one picture. We can pull his records and all types of stuff. Like, they're literally, it's because they have a weak case. Without doing all of that, they know that they will lose. And the thing is, wouldn't it be interesting and funny if they do all of that sabotaging? Because that's how I see it. They do all that sabotaging and they still lose. All of that they were doing would have been and will be for nothing. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I'm so, like I said, it was one of my most highest anticipated movies so far of this year. There's still so many other films to come out this year, but you know, with the pandemic and everything like that, a lot of that stuff is going to streaming. There's only going to be a few theatrical releases, and then it's only a few people that's going to be able to see it because not all the theaters will be open. But all I have to say is this, Mr. Parker, Nate Parker, if you do see this, and 9 times out of 10 you will, because I will be tagging you in it, take a bow, pat yourself on the back, a round of applause. This movie was very, very phenomenal. Oh, one other thing I wanted to put in there is how they used the boy's mother. Like, they went to her house and then they sent the black cop. Like, literally, Nate Parker hit all cylinders on this. Like, he literally took real life and put it in this movie, and instead of making it into a fantasy, he made it as raw and real and genuine as possible. Like, sending the black cop, who happened to be the captain, to come to the mother's house and tell her, you know, that you need to get out there in front of the cameras and say to people that they need to be peaceful and all of this type of stuff. I said, oh, they doing this. And somehow, you know, they got to her and it ended up happening just like how it does in real life. That's one thing I really love about this movie, is how real it is, because that actually happens, but you never actually see the process of it actually happening. You just see it happening. They probably throw a few coins their way, and then, you know, they go on about their day, because basically saying, we call for peace, we don't want any violence, we don't want any rioting, looting. They basically, that's to calm down the people in hopes to actually make them forget about what actually happened. And that usually is always the case. Now, like I said, the ending, I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but I thought at the very end it was something very interesting, but I can't go into detail about that because it would kind of spoil it. So I'm going to leave that one open and let you watch that. And, you know, maybe if you watch the movie by the time this upload comes up, we can talk about it down in the comments. But that has been my review of American Skin, one of my most anticipated movies of 2021. Great job, Nate Parker, into the cast and the crew and everybody who worked on this film. I would highly recommend that everybody watches it. It's on streaming platforms. You can go just about everywhere. I posted those links a couple weeks ago on my community tab. Many of you had pre-ordered it. I know I did. I woke up to, as a matter of fact, it is currently 7:14 a.m. I started watching this movie a little after 5:30. So the movie is not that long. It's about a little over 90 minutes. You know, a good enough time to get the point across. And just, you know, watch it, have a discussion with your family or whoever else is watching, because it is definitely needed. And it went there. It really went there. But anyway, I'm going to get off of this. I hope y'all enjoyed my review. Hope y'all go and watch the movie and support. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. If you have not done so already, please text that number that is pinned down in the comments below so you can receive notifications for every video that I upload daily. And I will talk to you in the next one.